Hello and welcome to Main Street Matters by Heart on Main Street, the podcast that knows how to always keep Main Street in focus. I am your host, Patrick Keiser. Today's episode is going to be a recording of our most recent webinar that we had, which was entitled Picture Perfect In-Store Photography to Enhance Your Digital Presence. This was an amazing webinar and conversation with our guest, Janzen Tew, who is the owner of Denim Velvet, which is marketing services, but also so much more for independent retailers. They really are a wonderful company. Janzen has a lot of experience as a professional photographer. She's also worked a lot within the Western industry, but retailers of all types as well. And so there's so many great tips in here if you're wanting to work with models, about how to take better pictures with your phone, about settings, about apps that you can use to edit your photos. So much great information. I've already received a ton of feedback on this webinar that we had, that people really got a lot out of it. They really took so many notes and there were some great things. So really highly recommend that you listen to this. If you want to also watch it, there are some visual elements, a lot she talks through, so you can get a lot out of listening to it. But if you also want to watch it, you can go to our website, heartonmainstreet.org, and find it within our past webinar section. Really, there you can find all of our past webinars, all of the 29 going on 30 different webinars that we've done. And this has been one of the most registered for, the most highly attended webinars that we've done. So again, a ton of great information. The Q&A section at the end was fantastic. There were a lot of great questions that she was able to answer for retailers. So if you have those questions, you can always reach out to her. She does provide her contact information, but many of your questions might be answered there too. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Janzen Tew in our conversation about taking in-store photography to enhance your digital presence. Janzen, thank you so much for joining today. I am very excited to have you on.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and I'm so excited to be here as well. I am coming to y'all from my truck today because I am always on the go, and thankfully I can do my job from wherever, but I was actually leaving from one photo shoot and headed to another, and unfortunately was not able to make it back to my office for this. So that is a perk to photography and it being mobile and able to do it anytime, anywhere.
Again, Janzen, I'm very, very excited to have you on today and to talking to this group. You presented at a event that we hosted in Dallas last January, and I knew kind of right away, like I wanted you to come on our webinar, be able to talk to a larger group. I think that there's just so much valuable information that you provided, and photography is one of the things that retailers get a new hat that we get to wear. As really photography, there's so much involved, whether it is your social media, your emails, your website. There's just people are wanting real content, not stock images. They're wanting you to take photos to see things about your store, of your products. So again, just one more hat that retailers get to wear. Yay. And I know personally that I know how to take photos on my phone, but I know that I could probably do them better. And there's probably settings and there's different things on my phone that would allow me to do that better. So I think what you're talking about is so valuable to allow people to really learn those things and be better at that, so that their photography, for their social media, for their emails, for their websites, it can be better and really reach a larger audience. So with that, I know we have a presentation today. I'm going to start sharing that and allow you to talk to us about Picture Perfect and really how to take better photography.
Absolutely. No, Patrick, you nailed it right there. Um, there's so much that goes into photography that can seem so overwhelming. Like, do I need a professional camera? Can I get away with it from my cell phone? Do I need to put a Snapchat filter? Do I have to Facetune? And so many other things that go through our minds. So I'm going to walk y'all through what truly is picture perfect branding and how to have a cohesive look from your Instagram, email marketing, website, and also feeling confident if it's you in front of the camera. And then also if you're the one behind the camera and you have a model, on some tips on how to walk through that whole process. Um, know I usually am a big Q&A person and love a lot of audience interaction. So if I stumble or am like awkward through this, please bear with me. This is only my second webinar to be able to do this from, but it's something I'm so passionate about and I love getting input back. So we're going to go through this. Patrick, if you don't mind going to that next slide
Absolutely.
for me. This is just a little bit about me and who I am, what I do with Denim Velvet. I founded the company in 2017. I have a background in photography where I worked for two of the largest retailers in the Western industry, National Roper Supply and Teskey's. I also have a background in retail from working in clothing stores and then also in wholesale where I was a merchandiser and sales rep for a very large showroom at Dallas Market Center where we carried some mainstream and large brands like Badgley Mishka, NYDJ, Torn by Ronnie Kobo, Allison Trixie, and more. And so I've kind of worked in every aspect. So I feel like that gives me a unique approach to what you as a business owner need and also what the consumer wants as well, because I'm also a shopaholic. Self-proclaimed and diagnosed. Haven't started going to meetings yet because I'm not ready to quit. But there's so much that goes into photography, especially with as large as online shopping is, whether that's from social media or directly from your website, because people want to know how something fits, what the colors are, and they also need inspiration, whether that's styling, where to wear something, how many ways they can wear an item, and that's where pictures and video become so important. Next slide, please.
Love that you have kind of this very holistic, you've worked really on all ends and are able to
I
approach this
have.
and knowing that. And the first step to admitting you're a shopaholic, or first step is admitting that you're a shopaholic. So, yes.
Yes. I love to work, and so I've done probably a million different jobs, and just love to learn things. So one thing I talk about before I go into photos is always branding, because this is a huge part of your business. So the first thing that you should do is have like a set logo, your color scheme, your fonts, all of that. And I know people are like, what does that have to do with photos? It sets the tone for your business. If you have a hand-drawn logo with like lots of color or like caricatures in it, then people are going to assume after they've seen that your brand is maybe bright and bubbly or like outgoing and playful based on that. Or if you have a plain text logo and it's very black and white, they're going to expect like crisp and stark imagery, like something very fresh, maybe something you would see in like a catalog or like a JC Penney style setting versus what I would consider like boutique photography, which is like fun and inviting. So I always start with the branding portion and go logos before I go into photography, because that breaks down everything else that we're going to go to, like what's your tone of voice and how the images work. So for your socials is like making sure that like you're consistent across all platforms. Now that doesn't mean it has to say the same thing everywhere, but if we're selling women's apparel, then we need to have women's apparel on our Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, website, LinkedIn, wherever it's at. Now it could be on Instagram, like we sell the hottest women's apparel in Texas, but on Facebook it might be if you're looking for women's apparel in the DFW area, then we're the place to shop. And on LinkedIn it would be um, headed to like it could be something business related or like whatever your style of apparel is. Like if you're in the market for XYZ style, we're in Dallas and the place to shop. So making or women's apparel. So like we want to have all of that consistency across all of our platforms. And that goes down to using like our same fonts if we're creating graphics, having our logo visible, and the tone of voice, because that's a huge part of it. Now, these two pictures that are on the screen are always something that draws some attention. If you're in the Western industry, you might know the model that's in the top left corner. She is for Double D Ranch Wear. She has modeled for them for over 10 years. And that is something that is so important when you're working with a model, especially if you're releasing product on a regular basis, is to have consistency with models. That doesn't mean you only have to have one. I work with several boutiques that we work with models from a size extra small to a 3X so they can show their inclusivity, but they use the same models every time to keep that cohesiveness and brand awareness. I'm sure y'all can think of a company right now where if you saw that model, you would know it is theirs without even looking at the name on the account, the caption, or any other information. A great brand that's mainstream that does this would be Base. Their owner stays in all their content on social media regularly, makes it feel very organic, like she's the one running the account and doesn't have a marketing team like driving the ship for her. So just keep that in mind when it comes to models, whether it's you yourself or someone that you have. And I like to tell everyone, like, if your model is going to leave and they've been with you for a while, because life happens, whether that's, someone moving, a new job position, maybe they're starting their family and they don't feel comfortable modeling during pregnancy, whatever that might look like, be very upfront with your consumer. So that way they're not just shocked by a new face, and you're building that relationship where they feel like that they're part of like the conversation within your business. Especially as a small business, that community conversation is huge. And the tone of voice, this plays a role in your photos as far as like posing, background location, props that you might use, etc. So your tone of voice is set also with your business branding and your logos. Denim Velvet is very hot pink, black and white. We have splashes of yellow and like charcoal gray, but we are very bubbly, girl boss, like empowering, positive. And we wanted colors that represented that, but also tied into our tone of voice. And then going through that, showing up and showing our faces all of the time as well. And anytime that we're doing something, it's very, we're very excited. We love to help any way that we can. So that goes through our cohesiveness. And as far as socials go, I always use Wendy's as a great example for how to have fun on social media with your brand. They also have great imagery of their burgers and fries too, but they're not more so about like the tone of voice and like branding. They have a lot of fun on Twitter, or now X, and they're moving more into like Instagram and TikTok as well. They like to get on there and banter with their customers or their competitors even. And that goes into your captions that go along with your photos. All right,
Yeah,
Patrick,
Wendy's is
next.
sassy, right? They
They
kind of
are
have like
sassy. I mean,
some
now that
spiciness
redhead
to
and
them.
the redhead in the logo is a sassy little girl
Yeah.
too. So it goes hand in hand.
Yeah. I love
Next.
this idea that, I mean, I think we do think about our brand a lot and what it, from how we're presenting through written word and logo, but then how that impacts photography too, I think maybe is something that we're not necessarily thinking about. You're a lot of black and pink and girl boss. So I'm sure your photography, there's a lot of women empowerment and showing that through photography and not just through the written word too. I love that, and probably something that we maybe don't think about all the time.
Yeah,
That
so we
connection.
do we do like quarterly branding photo shoots at Denim and Velvet. And when I do that with my team, I have each of them come to me like with their concept. So Avery, our graphic designer, one time she wanted giant blow up crayons for her props and her photos, which was fun and vibrant and bubbly like we are, and like kind of a play on of like her job, but we did it on like a studio background with like a business suit. So it was like a
Yeah.
juxtaposition of like we're serious, but we have fun. Like we take our job seriously, but we're going to have fun doing it. So, which is perfect for us. Or like, I come from a Western background, but I also am very attracted to high fashion and the mainstream media. So I've done some that were like Vogue style settings of like what I was wearing, like high heels and high fashion clothes, but bring my horses or even like
Mm.
my miniature donkeys into the pictures with me for like the change, and being like, hey, we can relate to both worlds. So it's also about relating to your clients and meeting them where they're at and showing what like how diverse that you can be with your business as well.
Very cool.
Yes, if you'll go to the next one
Yeah.
for me. Okay, this is probably the biggest question I get asked. Like, can I use a cell phone or do I have to use a camera? You can use either, whichever you're comfortable with. Obviously, I want to state that using a professional camera is going to boost a lot of areas of your photos, but that does not mean that they cannot, cell phone images can't be edited. or anything like that. So when I talk about cameras, I don't want anyone that's using their cell phone to be discouraged, because we are going to go into that in a minute. But because I am a photographer, I'm going to go through the benefits of having them professionally taken first. So the number one difference that I get asked, or that people feel frustrated with when they switch from cell phone to using a DSLR or a digital camera, is like understanding lighting positions. When you're on a cell phone, you want to be facing that light. Like you want it to be in your face, and you want to like that brightens you up. If you're a woman, you would know, like if you're facing the light, it removes like a lot of wrinkles or aging. It makes you feel younger. But if you do that with a digital camera, there's instant harsh shadows. Like you might have a shadow on your nose, or it doesn't look soft anymore. And sometimes it will age you and you feel like very defeated. So the first thing is, think of a camera opposite of a cell phone. If you want a cell phone photo and you want light in front of your face, if you're on like using an actual camera, you want the light behind you, and you want your full, like whatever your subject is, to be in a full shadow. And that is something like mind blowing. And it took me a long time going from like taking pictures on my camera to using a cell phone. I'm probably the worst selfie taker that there's ever been, because I didn't know how to use my cell phone camera well. I didn't ever use it for that. If I wanted a cute photo of my dogs or a horse or anything before I started doing product photography and into what I'm doing now, I always picked up my camera because it was always with me. So all of these things are tried and true and learned the hard way so that you don't have to. But lighting and having that relation to your subject is the number one difference. So I've got two examples here. I took a picture on my cell phone for a behind the scenes of a photo shoot, and then a picture of what happened with my camera. Obviously, the cell phone picture is not edited at all. I could have edited it to make it look like the final product from what was taken from my camera, but just to give you an idea of like how harsh and dark it looks on a cell phone when the light is behind the subject versus how bright it looks on a camera. If I would have been taking this photo shoot on my cell phone, I would have had the models turn the opposite way and face the sun so that they were fully like front lit, and it would have softened a lot on there. Another thing is like paying attention to your background. A lot of times when I'm working with a new client and they want like a certain style, or maybe they're going to take their own pictures and I'm training them, they are like looking at a very broad area of where they're going to go to take pictures. They'll be like, oh, I have like this city park, or there's this building that has a giant mural, or there's a pretty pasture down the road from my store, whatever that might look like. You truly only need a space about 5 to 6 foot wide, because when you're doing a product shot, even if you're doing a whole outfit, by the time you crop it for social media, you don't need that much room outside of your subject. So when you're doing it, like you can pull over on the side of the road if you see a pretty shrub at the back of a convenience store and you're like, man, the light's good right there. They're never going to know the store's there. And you can really change your angles and thinking on that, of like not worrying about having a large area to do pictures. Just the biggest thing I always say is like, okay, when the model stands there and you look through your camera on your phone or your camera, just look around like, okay, is there a piece of trash on the ground? Is there a sign in the background that like maybe if you moved a couple inches to the left or right, the model would hide it and you wouldn't have to remove it? I try to do all of this to streamline the editing process. So that way a lot of things can be photoshopped out, and there's a million apps to remove objects, but all of that takes time. So I like to teach people to streamline the process in the moment, so you're not having to spend more time when you're editing, so that you can get your images turned out quicker. Another few things that I like to say to pay attention to, as far as like attention to detail on the garments on the model. A lot of times bralettes are very popular, or women want to wear camisoles when they're modeling. So if you're doing it outdoors and they're changing their shirt, they're not just topless in a street, which I fully understand, but blouses tend to grab at them. And so making sure that they're pulled down and there's no wrinkles in the top, or if it's got like zipper details or lace or like embroidery details, that those are laid flat and being able to be shown very well in the model. Another thing to pay attention to is making sure they don't have any hair ties on their wristband or on their wrist, or like any, if the jewelry that they're wearing doesn't match, things along that area to just pay attention to, because there's nothing worse than completing a photo shoot and then you look back and there's a black hair tie on the model's wrist, and you're like, okay, I'm going to have to spend hours upon hours removing that or cropping all of the images so her hands are cut off. And now we have a handless model. Also, understanding cardinal directions. I feel like this is one that blows people's mind, of knowing what direction north, east, south, or west is. But it's very important when you are picking your locations to know what direction something is facing, so you know what time of day you can do for a photo shoot. We know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So if you're wanting to do a morning photo shoot on a camera, you are going to want something with an east facing background so that the sun is coming up behind you in the pictures. But if you're doing it on your cell phone, you're going to want a west facing background so that the sun is rising into your face. North and south can pretty much be doable any time of day, depending on the size of the building, because you can get shade on either side of that throughout the day. So just thinking about if you're driving around town and you're like, oh man, I really like that spot, or that building looks cool. Which side of the building is it that you like, and what direction is it facing? Thankfully, all of our cell phones have a compass on them, so it's pretty easy to open, or your vehicle usually has that as well. I have grown up knowing which direction things are just because I've lived in the country and I didn't have a lot of buildings. And I will say in cities, I do get a little bit turned around. So just paying attention to those, because it also alleviates a lot of prep time when it comes to mapping out a photo shoot, especially if you're shooting on location. And then using settings to your advantage, as far as like location settings, times of day, and then even like your cell phone settings or your camera settings. So one thing I love to do if I'm using a cell phone, and I'm going to apologize to Android users right now or Google Pixel users. I have not spent enough time with them, and I am an Apple product user. So the tips that I'm going to give will be iPhone related. And I'm sure that there's a lot of information on the internet, and I always feel so bad that I don't know enough about the other devices. But I like to shoot everything in a portrait mode on a cell phone so that you have the control of the f-stop. The f-stop is what blurs your background. And people love a blurred background because they believe it feels professional, and it definitely does. If you took the same picture on the regular photo mode versus portrait mode, the portrait mode one is definitely going to feel more professional. F-stop, if you're not familiar what that is, or aperture, is the depth of field or how blurry the background is. The smaller the number, the more blurry it is. And I believe an iPhone starts at like a 2.8, I believe, when you open it. And I like to tell people relatively to use an f-stop to the amount of subjects you have in a picture. And that doesn't always mean that you have to. For example, the pictures that are on the screen where I've got the 7 models in it, my f-stop was not a 7. I believe it was like a 3.5 or a 4.0. And the reason I didn't have to go up to a 7 is they're all in a single line like this. The f-stop changes the focus if your subjects are faced further back from each other. And so that way, like, this person is not the only one in focus. The woman standing like back and maybe to the side is also in focus as well. So having those settings, or if you tap on the photo on the screen on your iPhone and the little square comes up and it's got a sunshine, I believe, to the right side, you can hold your finger on that sunshine and slide up to brighten, or you can slide down to darken, because the iPhone just kind of like it relates it to all of the available light, but it gives you that option to be able to adjust it. And then paying attention to detail to your horizon line. So this means, like, if you look in these 2 pictures, for example, you can see that like the hill and the background behind them is straight. It is super easy to be holding your phone or your camera and it be slightly tilted. And then when you edit, everything looks like it's at an angle. So paying attention to that either while you're shooting. Sometimes you have to get in like a really awkward position with your camera and you can't get it straight. So I make sure I'm back up enough that I know when I edit that it can be straight. That's something I'm very particular about because I think a straight horizon line appears to be more professional than one that's crooked. That appears to be more of like an amateur style. If you're doing product photography, it can be very artsy. If you're doing something, maybe marketing materials or like a seasonal campaign, but for just regular product photos, even if you're shooting indoors in like a studio setting, and there's like a baseboard on the floor, that being crooked automatically in my mind makes it feel a little more amateur. These are small details that make a huge impact in the overall appearance of your images.
I
We
could
can go to
even
that next
see
slide.
in like a store if it's the like a shelf, just making
Yeah,
sure that the shelf is level and
yeah.
yeah, make just
Any
little things like
displays in
that.
the background. Yeah, if you've got mannequins back there, like tables or props, even if you're going like live on your videos,
Mm.
making sure like the camera's upright for your social media, or if you've got like your cash wrap or anything like that in the background, just making sure that things are level. It just really polishes, adds another layer of like professionalism to it. And I get that next slide from you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Here's a few quick wins that automatically make your photos stand out. The first thing I always ask anyone when they open their camera is to clean it. And that's because when we pick up our phone or grab it or put it in our pockets or our purse or whatever, our camera gets like bumped against stuff. I'm the worst about picking my phone up from the top. And so like my front facing camera will always look like a little smudged, and sometimes that can make for a pretty picture if I'm not wearing any makeup because it's a little blurry and so not everything's in focus, but I always wipe them off. I keep lens wipes with me everywhere I go, but also, and these are just like the ones that come with my sunglasses, but also your t-shirt usually works really well as long as it's not like a gauzy or like scratchy material. If you've got something cotton, polyester, even rayon, you can wipe it off really quick. And you'll be amazed. And I'll tell people, like, if they're like, oh, it doesn't make that big of a deal, I'm like, open it and take a picture, and then let's wipe it and take another picture, and let's compare them side by side. And that's a huge win. Usually they're like, oh wow, I thought that like the camera on my phone was terrible, but really it was just dirty. um, iPhone photography, portrait mode. I mentioned horizon line. There's also in your settings what they call guidelines or rule of third lines. And so it puts like a grid on your phone screen. That is super helpful until you're comfortable with like having everything balanced. Trying to put the model in the middle of like the ruler on the center, and then always taking images using the same orientation. I can't make this decision for you. This is totally personal preference. I like a vertical image. There are some brands that want square images and some that want horizontal. But I just always say for your product photos, no matter what shape it is that you like, vertical, horizontal, or square, take all of them the same because it will look cohesive both on your social media and on your website. And it makes a big difference in like your editing time. If you're you're holding your phone like this and then holding it up and down and then over here and zoomed in, zoomed out, and we've got vertical and square and horizontal, then like everything kind of looks hodgepodge together. And so there's a time and place for every shape of image too. If you're needing to do an email banner or a Facebook cover photo or a new hero image on your website, unless you're doing like a collage and multiple layout, you're going to want a horizontal image for those. But that's usually a group photo or maybe like a really styled photo and we're on location. And then usually or a vertical image is what we want everywhere else. That's Instagram's preferred shape. That's this like for stories or posts. It's also Facebook's preferred shape. They like a 4x5 orientation. And so a camera always shoots a 2x3, but it's a really quick edit for me to apply in Lightroom when I edit, and to be able to change it to the aspect ratio that Instagram or even Facebook wants. But knowing what direction or like what the images are going to be used for before I start makes a big impact on that. And then if you're going to be doing video as well while you do photo shoots, which you definitely should be because video is so important and a huge part of your business, even if you're just showing behind the scenes on stories, I highly recommend using the cinematic version if you're on an iPhone versus the regular video. And I always change my f-stop on that to about a 5.6 so that my model stays in focus while they move around. And then I switch, it automatically goes to HD when you open cinematic. And if you tap in that top right corner on your cell phone, it will change it to 4K. And that just gives you a little bit more crispness and like detail to the videos, so they look slightly more professional, and you have some more editing capabilities when it comes to if you're needing to like brighten or color correct anything. And speaking of color correcting, I don't do a ton of that because I want my garments to look as much in the photo as they do in the in person, and it can be really hard to not want to like put the same like fun edit that you would, whether that's like a Snapchat filter or a Facetune, or if you use like Tezza or any of the fun apps, like to change, like to have like a vintage feel or things like that. But the number one thing when you're selling online is to have your clothes as close to the true color as possible, because there's nothing worse than looking for something for a special occasion, or you've got like a specific color you want to wear and you find something on your line and you're like, oh my gosh, that's it. And you order the product and you get it in and it's not the color you thought it was. So having it as close as possible. Obviously, colors change in certain lights and they look different to the naked eye than they do on the screen, but we want to try and be mindful of keeping them as close as possible, both in video and in photo. And then it makes it easier when you're editing also, of like going from photo to video, and it's not like this stark difference of like, oh, is that the same product? How much did they edit that picture versus what they did to the video? So those are my few quick wins. I believe I have one more slide, but it might be like the, oh yes, okay. So another thing for anyone that is on doing sales on a website and not just via social media is having your own images, how it can boost your SEO and get you ranked higher on search engines like Google. And that goes into naming your products. If you get a photo, let's say we'll use Blue Sky brand, and they, because I know they'll allow their retailers to have access to their images to use. You're going to get an image that might be named like image 123 or like Blue Sky 123. And it's going to be a beautiful model on a white background of the product. And that's great if you're wanting to do like a pre-sale, but it is actually hurting your website, because if somebody Googles black t-shirt and everyone is selling the same Blue Sky black shirt and they're using their product image, then yours isn't standing out any more than anyone else's. But if you have an image of a black t-shirt and you name it your business, so Denim Velvet 1, and then in my meta tags on Shopify or Squarespace or BigCommerce or any of the e-commerce websites that you might be using, Wix or anything along those lines, in that meta tag, I can put black t-shirt, my business name, even a location, so Texas. And if someone searches black t-shirt and they're in the DFW area, mine is going to appear higher, number one, because it has a different title, it being named Denim and Velvet, having my business name bumps it up. In my meta tags, I have black shirt and I also have a location. So these are a few things that help. Also, your website speed, having your images, and if they're all properly sized, and I'm not sure if y'all can see that, the sizing aspect ratio on this presentation. If not, I let Patrick know. I will be happy to share this PDF with everyone. But I resize everything to have a 2048 pixel long edge. And what that does is the longest edge of the photo will never be larger than 2048 pixels. And so that keeps it small, but the quality very crisp and detailed. So if you were to zoom in on a picture, it wouldn't look blurry, but the size of the image is small. So it helps your website load the images faster. Also, by naming it your business name, and in Lightroom, you have the option to copyright your images. It gives you another level of protection, and it helps your SEO throughout that process too. So if you were to Google Denim and Velvet, or even pull any images from our website, each of the images would be named the business that we took them for to help on that. And it also goes into your Google business listing of being able to upload your own images on there, along with what they take of like the Google Street Views, and then making sure that your information that's provided on your Google business listing is exact there. Oh, does it matter if there's spaces? No, it does not. You can do it either way. I'm a no space person. So like if I was taking pictures for my business, it would be Denim Velvet. The only thing that I do is I capitalize the first letter. So if I was doing black T, it would be capital B, LACK lowercase, capital letter T, EE on there. You can put spaces, but that is fully personal preference and how you like your files organized. But that was a great question. All right, I don't believe I have one more slide, but let's go ahead and double check. I think this is my okay. Yes. Y'all can scan this with a smartphone, or I will give y'all a tip. If you screenshot this slide, they have released a new update that you can press down on a QR code in your camera roll now, or like in your photo library, and it will also open. This has like my favorite cameras that I use, a link to, I believe the presets that I edit with are on there, Lightroom presets, all of that. So these are ways to be able to just be more efficient with your photography. Patrick, I know you said around an hour, and I usually am a very fast talker. So if you're good with opening it for questions,
of course,
or whatever you would like to do.
Yeah, let's I'll stop sharing here, and then we could open up for some Q&A. Let me see. It sounds like the one doesn't matter about spaces. It's a question we had come in. Thank you, Cheryl, for that question. But yeah, if you have other questions, things for Janzen. Janzen, you want to tell? We talked about Denim Velvet, but how they could contact you if they have other questions.
Yeah, you can find us on every social platform, Threads, Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, Facebook, where X, anything like that, or you can go to our website, denimandvelvet.com. And then my email is also janzen@denimandvelvet.com. Okay. I saw one about Canva, and I saw some about product photos. Yeah.
All right. So Vicky asks, I'm a novice with Canva. Me too, Vicky. Any great tips on using Canva?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially for like resizing to make sure everything's the same orientation. Like if you are shooting on your phone and you're like, I know I held my phone up and down the whole time, but I want to make sure that these are all the same size, you can open up a new design file and set it to the ratio you want, and then go through and make sure and put your pictures in there, and then you can like expand them to fit that area, or even use the magic expand if you didn't take a large enough area around the photo and it needed to be like zoomed out a little bit more. So that would be like the number one tip. Canva, I wouldn't really edit my photos in because it's pretty limited on there. I mean, you can adjust like brightness and highlights and shadows a little bit, but there's not a lot of color correcting options. But that would be like the number one place. And it's also a great place to be able to quickly add your logo in the same area of every photo if you're wanting to watermark them. I don't really have a personal preference on it. I don't watermark any images that we photograph for clients unless they specifically request it, because it is so easy for people to steal images in general and remove a logo unless you're like putting it like right next to the model's face or like on part of the apparel. There's so many people that can quickly remove a logo that I don't think it's a true added benefit, but that is something that you could easily do in Canva and have very uniform, or just creating like some templates so that you are easy to like plug and play with each drop. Like say you drop every Tuesday, having some pre-made templates that you can just drop your photos in. That's like, this is this Tuesday's drop. Our new arrivals, our releases, however you want to word it, and just having that just set up and making it more efficient. So once you're done with the photo shoot, it rolls out quickly.
And Vicky, I know Canva there's a lot of videos on how to use Canva. I think that it's Canva University or Canva School or something like that. There's a lot of videos that they try and teach you how to use the program better.
I will say one more thing about Canva. If you have not set up your brand in Canva, do that. because you can put all your color codes in there, your logo, the fonts that you use. So if you're not like creative or feeling like you're feeling uninspired when it comes time to create like your next email banner or just Instagram post or graphic or anything like that, you can use one of their templates. And when you click on it, there on the left hand side, there'll be a brand area and you can click your brand. And then it has like the, I call them the shuffle arrows that you would see like on like Spotify or Apple Music or something. And you can click those and it will change the design to have your branding colors in it. So that's like a quick way for you to like make sure that everything is actually your brand colors very quickly. And then it also has your fonts available. So if you click on a font where they've got something typed, you can change it to whatever your like title, subheading, or like body font is to make sure that everything matches your brand easily.
Michael asked, "Do you recommend photo booth for products?" You had mentioned that a couple times.
You can, if you're doing like accessories or smaller items, a photo booth is nice and you can get like a simple white box off of Amazon. I always tell everyone not to like over invest. It's super easy to like get really excited and buy all of this equipment and then feel super intimidated because you're not getting the outcome. So I go by the KISS method of keep it simple, stupid. And I use poster board because it's cheap. It doesn't matter if it rips or tears. I can go get it for 50 cents at Dollar General down the road. And I tape like 3 or 4 of them together and make like 2 sides. And then I usually curve one for like a top and bottom so I don't have a harsh line in the back. And then if you're wanting like the pretty like reflection of something, go buy some like plexiglass at Home Depot or Walmart or your local hardware store and put that on the bottom to set your product on. And then you get like a little mirroring effect as well. Um, if you don't have natural light, just make sure any light bulbs that you're using with, if it's a flash or like a standard, just like light that's constant, make sure the lighting is more white or blue than yellow because warm tones are harder to get rid of, especially if you're shooting like silver jewelry or anything like that. And if you're shooting anything that's super reflective, I tell everyone to try and wear white if you're doing product photos because your your clothes will color cast onto that white background as well, too. So like if I was shooting right now, the background of my images would have a slight pink tint to them because of my red shirt and me having to be so close to the products when I'm doing accessories or smaller items.
Yeah, Holly had asked about recommendations for inside retail store about the natural that don't have natural light. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I would use a ring light. They're fairly inexpensive. You can get them on Amazon, and I think most ring lights allow you to also adjust the color tone to if it needs to be like more warm or cool, depending on what the colors within your store are. Um, a lot of times too, if someone's like, I don't have natural light in my store, I'll be like, well, you have a door. And if you know you're not going to be like open, like maybe you're not open on Mondays because it's slow in your town, then I would recommend like standing in the front of your door and doing your pictures there so you can have natural light, but that's not always an option. So using a ring light in an area, if you're having to like, if you've got a staged area in the back room of your store or something like that, um, I would just kind of look at it, have a model or a mannequin there and like set your ring light and see like how the shadows are falling. To feel comfortable about like not having like a harsh line on like your model or your mannequin's like body or face so that all the clothes are fully visible.
couple of quick ones. Yes, there is a recording of this. You will receive a recording for registering. I will send out the presentation as well so you can get the barcode. Got a lot of questions. So
I love
thank
it.
you all for participating. So Shannon asks, any recommendations for children's photo shoots are as realistically doable for children's clothing?
Absolutely. My biggest thing is when you're going to be doing children's clothing. So I shoot a lot of women. I know that I can do roughly like 20 to 30, we'll say like 35 products in an hour on a grown up. I'm going to be able to do about 10 to 12 on a kid in an hour. They make it like fun for them. I like to give them activities. It's a lot to ask a kid to like say cheese, cheese, cheese over again and smile at the camera. And I think parents, if they're shopping for kids' clothes, they want to see like some motion as well. So if I'm shooting in studio, we'll take little dance party breaks where they'll let them spin around and I'll get some pictures of that, or sing out their favorite Disney song or tell me about their animals. I always ask mom and dad not to have like any snacks out and let them eat ahead of time. And if they're going to have drinks, let it be water so that if we spill anything, that we're not like damaging any products and we don't have little messy faces in the process, because then they're going to get mad when you have to wipe them off. But less product, and then letting the kids move. If you let them move, they're going to inevitably pose for you at some point. It's not going to be like super intentional. They just take a little bit longer, and just having patience. And then you might stumble across that kid that just loves to model, and they're going to stand there and love having their photo taken and roll through it. But just like lowering your expectations of like the volume of product you can do quickly.
Yeah, great recommendations. I have a 2-year-old, and I can't imagine trying to get them to be still for photos.
Right. Yes.
Sherry asks, any helpful tips for taking jewelry shots?
Jewelry shots, I would recommend portrait mode first and foremost, and then like depending on the type of jewelry, um, whether it needs to be on or off a model, and like price point. If we're doing like high-end luxury, I would do a combination. I would have everything on a white background so it felt like clean and crisp and they could really see the details. But then I would also have it on a model in like a lifestyle setting. Like let's say we're going to be selling diamonds. I would have it at either like a high-end restaurant, maybe if it's we'll say a tennis bracelet, holding a really nice glass of wine or a good like martini or something like that, being able to show like a luxury moment, but also with the product in the picture. If we're doing more like live-in everyday jewelry, like a small gold hoop that I have on right now, I would have a like lay flat of it, and could be on any type of background if that was like a solid color or a like texture or pattern where they could see the product, and then just a close up of it on a model or even like a mannequin just so they could see it in like a size reference. You can use a regular camera or your cell phone camera for that, but I would just recommend portrait mode so that way you can like kind of focus in on the product a little bit more.
Abby asked, best way to maintain aesthetic visual approach with editing, but keep colors true for the product as much as possible.
Yeah. Time of day plays a big role into that when you're shooting and knowing your style. So I like to shoot early morning or like later afternoon when it's a little more overcast. I very, very rarely will shoot from like um 11:30 to like 3 is a hard no for me unless I'm shooting in a studio where I can control the lights completely. Or if I know an overcast day, because then I'm not having to worry about shadow or like clouds coming in and changing my light over the sun. So there's a lot of things to think about if you're going to be shooting outdoors. But staying like true with like the same time of day. That doesn't mean you have to shoot every Tuesday at 10 a.m. But if you know that 10 a.m. works good for you and your model, no matter what day that is, weather permitting, I would stay within like that time zone to keep with like lighting consistency. And then also keep in mind, like when daylight savings happens, adjusting forward or back an hour to keep that. And then not like if you shoot something at 10 a.m. and you shoot something at 4 p.m., the lighting's going to be completely different. So no matter how hard you edit, there's always going to be some discrepancy because of just like general lighting for the sun if you're wanting like the same background. So time of day, big on that. And then when you edit, I always edit my very first picture and then apply that same preset across everything and then just go through and make minor tweaks on the photos following it. So that way I know like my color correction's the same, my cropping is the same, really any added presets that I might have added. Now, if the sun came out and it was brighter and like over a period of like 2 or 3 shirts, I know I'm going to need to lower the exposure on like that section of photos. I'm not going to have to change a lot of other things as far as like saturation of the image goes, or even like clarity or sharpness to keep that, maintain that color making sure that they're as precise as possible.
Candy had asked about recommendations for background for product photos. You had mentioned kind of poster board before, but other
I use a lot of craft paper, especially if I'm doing like smaller shots. I'll go get like scrapbooking paper because it's larger. It's usually like an 11 by 17, almost like legal pad size. So like you can cut it up and use for your crafts, but it's enough area that I can lay some product, even a longer necklace or something like that on there and still have it as a background. And it gives you a lot of options. There's so many different patterns, polka dot stripes, especially if you're wanting to do seasonal things, like they've got red, white, and blue or 4th of July or memorial theme. So scrapbook paper is something I use a lot of as well. And then there's a brand called, oh man, I believe it's Savage. And it is actually like a backdrop paper company. And they have all different sizes as far as like widths and lengths of roll of paper. I've got them from 4 foot wide up to 10 foot wide in our studio. So knowing like what type of photos I'm going to be doing, like if we're going to have a large group of people, I'm going to need the 10-foot wide one so that I can put multiple people on the backdrop. Or like if I'm just doing like a single model or some like simple product, I can get away with like that 4 foot wide backdrop. But I believe Savage is the brand on that one. There's some like sister companies as well. The paper lasts you a long time unless you were just like walking on it with some like crazy high heels and ripping it to shreds. So I can usually get like, for me, and I do a high volume of photos with a lot of different models, I can get about 8 months out of one roll of paper.
oh, okay. Rachel asked about the best photo editing app.
On your cell phone, I'm still a huge fan of Lightroom as well. I'm Lightroom on the computer. If you do the Lightroom, I believe it's the Creative Cloud one. It will sync your devices. So if you edit on your computer and on your phone, you can you can upload the images from your phone and then edit them on your laptop without having to like email them to yourself or AirDrop or any other ways. I use Lightroom Classic just because that's what I learned on, so it's comfortable to me. But I still use the Lightroom editing app on my cell phone. There's some other great ones like Tezza, but there's built-in presets that you can click through and find one that you like on there. There's also a lot of places to buy Lightroom mobile presets. Etsy, has a ton. You can get on, like you can Google it and there's a million photographers that sell theirs. We have some as well, but I mean, I would recommend Lightroom over everything just because it's super easy and user friendly in my opinion, especially being able to like batch edit and edit a lot of photos at one time.
You mentioned presets. Shannon asked about recommended presets. Sounds like some apps have
Yeah,
some
they all
templates.
come built in. Lightroom has their own that are built in, but you can also purchase more. That is one that I don't really add a lot of information on because that's distinct to every brand. Whether you're wanting like bright and airy, dark and moody, like very crisp and like minimal edits. So that's completely up to each business. I would hop on somewhere like Etsy or even Google and look up like you can look up even like fashion presets and there's going to have like Lightroom mobile ones there for you to look at. But that one to me is very personal on like what style you like for you and your brand.
And let me just make sure we got all of our questions. Oh, Cheryl asked, do you have any tips for styling a shot that tastefully shows off the product but adds some interest?
Absolutely. So I would do that with like model movement and then also like how you're styling the product itself. Let's see, let me make up a outfit in my mind. Let's say we have like a blouse, a button-up blouse and a pair of jeans and a cute sneaker. And we're wanting to have like a mom that feels put together, but she's going to run some errands for the day. A few things that I would do to give a little bit more like styling to the product while also maintaining its like visual representation. This is where I get into like what I call emotional marketing, making someone feel like they want to be in that outfit in that moment. And this is all very personal. This is how I would style it if I was shooting it. This does not mean this is how your customer wants to wear it. I would have like the collar of the button down shirt like slightly popped up in the back. maybe cuff the sleeves to here, put a good amount of like jewelry on, like bracelets, have like a half tuck into the jeans, depending on the length of the jeans or the style, maybe having them cuffed, and like a cute sneaker. Whether you sell shoes or not, that's up to you. I have a lot of brands that I work with that don't sell footwear because it's a lot of overhead and storage. So we'll have the models bring footwear that's relevant to the products that we're shooting. And then my pose would be something very like exciting, bubbly. Maybe she's holding her purse or like walking and looking over her shoulder, and versus just standing and looking at the camera like semi-robotic or like Stepford wife style. So just adding like that, just another detail of emotion. And it takes someone like a little while to get comfortable with that. Being able to like model in front of the camera. If you're going to be doing the modeling for your boutique and you're having someone shoot you, or if you're going to like self-timer it or like have a button, I always tell everyone to like practice in front of the mirror. I know that seems like so menial or like not super detailed, but you learn how your body moves and like what is pretty to you and where you feel the most flattered. So if you're like, I don't ever want to be straight on at the camera because I feel like that makes me look wider than I really am, then you learn like, okay, I can turn slightly to an angle and like bring my chest towards the camera, and it gives me a nice little curve in my waist, but I'm not like straight on, but you can still see the front of my shirt. And you just learn little tips and tricks about what movements work well for your body that way. And then it makes standing there and posing so much easier. It is a little bit harder to continually move while someone's taking pictures on a cell phone, just because like the shutter doesn't like click as fast as it will on a camera. But having like continual movement so you don't feel like frozen or like perma smile is also something that I recommend, that just adds another layer to your product shot as well.
Well, we had a bunch of questions, but I think we got to them all. Janzen,
Fantastic.
thank you so much for being on. I learned a whole lot here. I'm sure our audience did as well. So thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And doing it from your car too. So yeah.
Happy to do it on the fly. Yes.
Just a quick plug for our next webinar, which will be coming up on May 28th. We'll be talking about 5 SEO mistakes that can limit visibility to your website. So Janzen, you talked about SEO today and how to use photography for that. So I think that'll really apply really well for that as well. So having Samantha Connor from the Boutique Hub to be a part of that. She is amazing. Yes. So Janzen, again, thank you so much. And if just real quick, if anyone has other questions, you want to your email address again, or where people can reach you.
Absolutely. Janzen, Janzen at denimandvelvet.com, or you can send us a message on any of our social media platforms, or even go to our website and we've got a contact form there as well. So if y'all have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. This is one of my favorite things, is to help businesses like find their groove and learn to be a genius in another area with all of the business hats that we get to wear at being an owner.
So again, that was Janzen Tew, the founder and owner of Denim Velvet, also a professional photographer in her own right. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. There were so many great tips that she was able to provide. And again, if you want to watch this to be able to see the visuals that she does talk about, you can go and watch it at heartonmainstreet.org. If you enjoyed this, or you enjoy any other of the webinar content or this podcast, please consider making a donation to Heart on Main Street through our website, heartonmainstreet.org. Proceeds from our donations go to helping independent retailers that have been affected by natural disasters, to help them rebuild and remain a part of their community. It's a really an important mission, as there are so many needing retailers out there, and a small donation really does go a long way. So until next time, stay safe, shop local, and keep your heart on Main Street. This episode was written, produced, researched, and edited by me, Patrick Keiser, with a very special thanks to Janzen Tew. For more information about Heart on Main Street, you can visit our website, heartonmainstreet.org. Thanks. Bye.